Welcome to the Nano Blitz.
All right, thanks for listening to the Nano Blitz. This is Tim.
Nano Blitz.
This is Tim, and then my whispering counterpart over there.
Hi, I'm Nate. Sorry. I'm Nate. Hey. Hi.
Hey, Nate.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Hi.
So if you're still listening, this is a Madden podcast. We are a franchise first podcast, and it's been a couple months. The last time we talked, we did our social distance episode, and you actually got to see our pretty faces on YouTube, which was a first for us. We're not doing that this time.
I'm not pretty.
Well,
everybody, including Ryan Tannehill, is going to agree that you're more handsome than I am.
well, I'm not going to argue that point. I'd like to be gracious and polite, but the truth is, I am a sexy beast. So, right, this is a Madden podcast again. Last time we talked about the beta. We had just done the beta, and we shared some opinions about how that was going, kind of how we thought the franchise was going to go going forward. And it was kind of interesting thinking about some of the things we said versus what
Is actually. Yeah.
And I guess that's sometimes, that's how betas go. You see one thing, and then sometimes they take a right-hand turn on it, or they nerf something you didn't want them to, or they improve something that didn't need it, or whatever it is. But we've been playing the game now. It came out August
28th.
So we've been playing just over
25th if you had the whatever version.
Right.
Which I don't.
No, but I had EA Play, so I got to do like the 10-hour testing, which in the 10-hour trial, and during which I spent probably about 3 hours playing Face of the Franchise, and I spent about 7 hours editing draft classes, and I played maybe 2 full games in that process. In between that. So, and then the game came out. We've been playing. We started our league. We're already, week 6 or 7?
7? 7?
Yeah.
6, 7. Yeah, 7.
So we're moving right along.
We did wait, till the first roster update as well, because that's kind of bit us before.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they always recommend it. We talked about this before. It bugs me, the idea that a game that we bought is not viable to play.
Wait, it bugs you?
It bugs me. Because it should
Sorry,
be.
I just had to point that out.
Right? Because if I'm dropping $60 on a game, or $70 if I wanted it early, or $80 if I think that the only way to enjoy the game is to spend thousands in MUT, then it should work right, and it should be fully featured the day that I get it, don't you think?
I mean, truly, Tim, do you think a Tom Cruise film is ever done? Like, is it ever?
Yes. They wrap film, they edit it, and then they put it in a theater. That with maybe the exception of The Mummy, but... But yes, the Tom Cruise's films are done. He does all his stunts himself, and they're finished, and then you buy a ticket to go see it.
But are they ever really? No. I'm sorry. I have to fit in Tom Cruise somewhere, guys.
Somewhere.
I mean, somewhere. Even though I'm not going to say that. Anyhow. Yeah.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, we've talked about it. And you could make. I'm trying to be, good cop, I guess, because Tim is always the bad cop.
Be bad cop with me, Nate. It's so much fun on the dark side.
You could blame COVID or, all that kind of stuff. But the truth is like, what you doing? Year in and year out, what you doing?
Absolutely.
And that's really kind of, I think, to me, that's kind of the bigger point, the bigger issue.
Absolutely. Right there with you. I think, if we touch on that for a minute, obviously this was a weird year for everybody. Development cycles clearly getting hit. You have a 1-year development cycle, and then you can't be in the development studio for like 7 of those 9 months that you're spending time on it, right?
Yeah. Like I've only been, I guess, in office at work for 4 months out of this year.
Right. Yeah. So, no stories this year of Andre sticking his head into the valet's cubicle to check on Kyler Murray ratings. No stories like that this year, but we know that can affect the cycle. But here's my thought on that is, I think, yes, COVID and lockdowns affected the development. I think anybody who says otherwise is not being honest. But what we're seeing is not the result of COVID. It's everything's kind of being illuminated and what's the word I'm looking here? Kind of revealed or exacerbated. Yeah, because you take the issues that they're having.
Sorry, if you hear a cat, that's Maggie just doing Maggie things. Yeah. She's lost in the basement.
So
she does that. Sorry.
So what we're seeing is it's basically revealing all the issues that were there by putting even poorer work on top of it. Yeah. And I say poorer work on top of it with the understanding that, look, they work hard, they put a lot of effort, and sure, we think they put their effort towards some of the wrong things sometimes, and clearly the tools they're using aren't good. Yeah. But like the way this cycle went, that work is going to suffer even more. And then you put that on top of a rocky foundation, and that foundation is just going to keep collapsing.
And I think that's what we're seeing. It's a dichotomy of that.
Yeah. The game.
I'm using big words today.
Yeah. Congratulations. Got to get my encyclopedia out after this. But how many updates have we had already? It's a weekly update right now.
It's about, other than the roster stuff, but it's about a weekly update. And some of them are big. They're not these, 500 megabyte, 200 megabyte patches. They're 2 to 7, 8 gigs.
Yeah, these patches are so big. It's like more stuff in each of these patches than what they did to change franchise mode from Madden 20 to Madden 21.
Well, then that would require them to have, more than 1 megabyte.
All right, so if you didn't get
kilobyte?
Yeah. So if you didn't get that joke, they didn't do anything with franchise mode. But you know that because
it bites.
Yeah. Fix My Franchise or Fix My Franchise has already trended on Twitter. You've already seen that. So so this game has been really buggy. There's been a number of issues. But when the game's playing the way it's supposed to.
Wait, it's supposed to play? Without lag?
The lag is the number one issue that I think I deal with every game, is plays feel laggy. I don't even understand how that happens when you're playing the computer. How is there a lag? But there is a lag. And that's a frustration. That's an issue that needs to get fixed.
I don't know. No, I'm just...
They should keep it. That lag adds extra difficulty. Just get good.
Yeah, just get good.
But if you would spend $1,500 in MUT cards every year, you'd enjoy the lag because you'd be playing it the right way.
I think you're right.
I've just changed your life.
Yeah. Inspired. Sorry, Mr. Bean episode came to me there really quickly.
Sure.
Anyhow.
Right. But yeah, so when gameplay is playing the way it's I guess intended to, when things are going the way it's intended to, I don't feel like it's that much different than Madden 20. I feel like it's still very similar. And we say this, it seems like we say this every year. Gameplay, some things get better, some things don't. Some things get better, some things stay the same, and some things feel worse. Defense right now, playing defense is still hard for me. That was something that was a beta thing we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You had an opposite opinion of that in the beta. You felt like you were really rocking defense,
mm-hmm.
and offense was more challenging. Do you still feel like defense is your bread and butter right now, or?
I feel like the pass rush isn't as good in the final version in our Madden 21 as it was in the beta.
I agree with that.
I guess that's the biggest part of my defense is getting to the quarterback right now is just not there. And now I'm playing mostly a passing zone oriented defense right now. I'm not going with the man up, meta, if you will.
Sure.
That kind of thing. I'm trying to kind of utilize zones to have speed in pockets, so to speak. But I do feel like the underneath zones just aren't played quite right. The middle of the field underneath, not quite as great. If you're playing a Tampa 2, that middle linebacker will play the back part really well, but it's like you're giving up, and this is Tampa 2 anyhow, if you know anything about defenses, but
right.
You're giving up that middle of the field, that kind of thing. But even as a user, it's very, very hard to compensate if you're doing a Tampa 2 there. Cover 3 is probably a little bit better than cover 2, but it still has those gaps, and I'm like, well, you're standing right in your zone, but the guy's like literally a yard away from you, because he's playing, hook or something like that to play against the zone. Mm-hmm. And there's nobody within 10, 15 yards of you. Yeah, you should be with that guy, not the 1 yard, so that the quarterback can get rid of it really quickly, right?
Right.
And one thing that I'm just finding is that the AI for the quarterbacks, it's just these really quick reads, and they just chunk and chunk and chunk. And we only play 6-minute quarters.
Right.
I had a game, like a whole quarter was taken up by the opening drive of the computer, 13-play drive.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole quarter. I don't have any stats for my offense at all. So, especially if you have like goals or whatnot, and you have in-game goals, but you have like development goals, that makes it very, very difficult or whatnot. And not that I need to pour it on like Jason does right now, but like I'm just not there yet. I guess offensively, like I've had some good and I've had some bad, and right now I'm playing a lot of I'm playing dudes that are in the 60s right now to develop them.
Right.
So, I'm going to have some struggles with that, like some inconsistencies, but yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. But I think you're right, though. Zones don't necessarily play the way don't always feel like they're playing the way they should.
I do feel like the deep zones, sorry to interrupt or whatnot, but I feel like the safeties, man, they just play. Now, granted, I have a 91 and an 88 safety.
Sure.
And with really high zone coverage. And, I mean, they just lock that. Like, if they're playing deep halves, I mean, they're playing those deep halves very well. I can trust that this year.
Yeah.
Whereas last year I couldn't,
Yeah.
But anyhow, go ahead.
No, similar situation. I have pretty good safety play myself. But, I have quality corners who don't seem to, come up and play their receivers.
Yeah.
Let a guy be in their zone but don't cover them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, does some of that have to do with the added mechanic of zone adjustments that they put into the coaching things?
Yeah, and I haven't messed around with them a whole lot. I probably ought to, change my purples, for instance, to, I think right now they default at, 15? But if you, change them to 20 or something, things like that. I've thought about starting to do those adjustments, but I'm just not there yet defensively to have some of that comfort in that.
Yeah, I hear that. I think that's one of those things that I need to get better at doing, is making those line adjustments. But I watch stuff, I'll watch an Eric Rayweather video or something, and they talk about putting those things, setting those to 2025. Mm-hmm. And then you watch what they're doing, and they're like, well, first I'm going to set this zones to 2025. Then I'm going to audible this guy into a spy, and I'm going to audible this guy into a flat, and I'm going to audible this guy into a hook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I don't look. Is this really what happens in football? That 6 different guys are on individual audibles on the defense? No, that's not like what you're doing is you're compensating as the user. And look, more power to you if you can do that. Like, I think that's what separates it. As much grief as I give some of the competitive guys, I think that's what separates some of their player skill, right? Is their ability to make some of those adjustments. But I think when we're playing a simulation league, I shouldn't have to play my defenses that way to get them to cover what they're already supposed to cover when they're in a specific defense. Do you know what I mean? It's one thing if I call an audible on one guy or a hot route on one guy on defense. It's another thing to actually have to completely tailor my defense into a play that doesn't exist in order to get them to cover all of the routes. You know, and you have to cover all the routes this year because there isn't pressure, right? You know, and when I do get pressure, like I was telling you about this earlier, I get a lot of quarterbacks. I've had this happen 4 or 5 times in only 5 games. Quarterback rolls to the left or the right and then throws a back foot crossbody pass from one sideline all the way to the other sideline, maybe 7 yards total, but it's it's sideline to sideline pass, crossbody to a receiver that they can't even see. Like, I can't see them because they're off the screen. Who's open now because they managed to make that play. And yes, you could have a play like that here or there in the NFL, but like that's happening consistently because my pass rush can't get these guys and they run out. Now, when I'm playing like Deshaun Watson, I expect him to elude some of my defensive ends and stuff, and he's a good quarterback, but I don't expect that to happen 3 times in one game with him. You know, like that's kind of silly. So I feel like defenses just aren't learning, and at least my defense isn't learning and playing the way we thought they were supposed to.
Yeah.
You know, like they talked about that a little bit with this game. It was about the players kind of learning a little bit more about what's happening and what players are doing. They talk about it with like the offensive line picking up what the defensive rushers are doing, but it's not really translating anywhere else on the field.
And more so, I guess the frustration is that the computer's AI can kind of adapt and whatnot, but your AI as the user will not. And so there's that inconsistency piece, I guess, with that, and kind of to go back to the trenches, if you will, because that was a focus this year that they had. I think they almost want to force you to play defensive line,
kind of,
to get that pass rush. So you use those moves or whatnot. I mean, I have Von Miller, right? And granted, I've changed Denver's defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3 because I like to play a lot of 3-3-5 and nickel and stuff like that. I have different packages, different personnel, right? But he's got 3.5 sacks, and we're 7 games in, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah, he had 8 sacks last year. I get that, but I mean, like your issue with the quarterback getting rid of it. I have the issue with I'm literally sacking the quarterback, and then he just
throws out a sack.
Somehow throws out of it. I understand some of the mechanics to that, but I mean, it goes less than a foot.
Yeah.
It's like it's compensating, like that in years past that would have been a fumble.
Yeah, you get those animations that look like it's a fumble and they're like incomplete pass. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And it didn't look like a pass, but I guess it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It and I guess that's my biggest frustration is like I'm getting like a sack a game.
Yeah.
And last year it was a little overboard. Like he could get 20 sacks a game, but
well, I'm definitely getting more than 1 a game, but I'm maybe only getting 2 a game.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it doesn't matter if I'm using the defensive line or not. They're just not getting to the quarterback fast enough most times.
Yeah.
You have to get coverage sacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But coverage is just not as good as it needs to be to do that. So that does make it a challenge. Makes it a little bit harder, and there probably is some tuning that needs to happen. Something needs to happen there. I'm not asking for the game to be easy. I'm asking for it to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. A couple other things I'm running into. Like defensively, those are my issues there. Like, zone's not really covering. Man works, but only for so long.
Yeah, I mean, especially against a computer.
Yeah. And then, and then pass rush, not getting to it. On offense, I find it is more difficult to run than it was last year, but I think that's okay. I think that's good. It feels more balanced.
Yeah.
I'm passing a little bit better than maybe I did last year too. Now that I've found some rhythms and some plays there, but when I run the ball, I do get more arm tackles on the line. I do feel like I'm getting sucked into more. Like that was something we noted about last year was you didn't feel like you were sucked into those tackles, but now.
You're kind of sucked back in.
Yeah, so if you try to hit that hole between the guard and the tackle, and that defensive tackle who's on the guard kind of changes your trajectory and grabs your player. And it doesn't happen too much. Like I think it was worse in like 19, but it's there again. So that's something that's like, okay, I guess maybe this makes it a little bit more balanced on running, but you want them to actually make tackles. You don't want the animation to suck you into a tackle. Those are two different things.
I've literally gone horizontal
yeah.
to avoid it, and like my player almost like he slows down to where he almost stops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well this is happening.
Right.
Like, and magically, like without being touched, I'm falling to the ground, that kind of thing. And it's like, I didn't run into my player. I didn't do anything. I was just within this little tiny area.
Yeah,
it was predetermined.
Yeah, you're kind of within the range, a specific range of the other player. So it indicates that person was going to tackle you.
Yeah.
I've also had a couple plays. With receivers. So I had it happen against me, and I had it happen for me. So against me, I was playing against the Texans, and Kenny Stills makes a diving catch on the sideline. But when he catches it, he lands, and the ball immediately comes out. The second he lands, the ball's out. Okay? So that's an incomplete pass. I think that's how I would look at that. They call it a first down. So I go and I go to the instant replay. And the instant replay tells you what the last play was, and it says, watch Deshaun Watson throw an incomplete pass to Kenny Stills. I'm like, so the replay says that it's an incomplete pass. So I look at the replay, and sure enough, I'm like, there's no way that would be considered a catch in real life. So I'm like, maybe this is the little telltale sign that I should challenge it, is by the instant replay agreeing with me, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Wrong. That's just... It's not what happened. So I do challenge it. I lose the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, cool. So it was a catch. So in the next game, I have a play where I think it's Washington. My receiver Washington, I'm using Pittsburgh. Runs a curl. He catches the ball on the 1 yard line. Okay, he gets hit from behind by the corner, and so he's standing on 2 feet, catches the ball without leaving his feet. But when he gets hit from behind by the corner, he goes horizontal. He goes up in the air, and his back is parallel to the ground, right? He gets lifted up off his feet and he does this thing where he then takes his right arm and extends it across the goal line. Like he was getting hit on the 1 yard line. But when the hit elevates him, he suddenly goes, oh, there's the goal line. And he sticks his arm out, and he falls flat, and they call it a touchdown. The second he hits the ground, though, the ball popped out of his hand.
If it crosses the plane,
right,
as magical as it may be, It's a touchdown.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but technically, this didn't look like a catch. So I go and I look at the instant replay, and the instant replay again says this is not a catch. It says
Incomplete.
this is an incomplete pass. No, it's a touchdown. I'm not going to challenge it. It's my play. It's my touchdown. I'm going to keep my touchdown. But
You don't have to challenge it. It's a scoring play. It's automatically reviewed.
right. Well, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to challenge it if I'd wanted to.
Gosh. Call yourself a Tom Cruise fan. Sorry, I've been cooped up a lot.
Show me the money. That's all I'm going to say. Look, Nate, you had me at hello. Anyway, it's
You complete me.
it's still
That
these
sounded wrong.
it's still these little animation issues that are kind of game breaking, immersion breaking, I should say, make you feel like, man, that just doesn't look right. That just doesn't feel right. You know, the game can't determine whether it's actually a catch or not. It tells you it's an incomplete, even though on the field they're saying it's a completion. Like, the game should know better than.
No, but they've already said it doesn't know better.
Well,
Of last year's version, that is.
that's true, and that is something like Clint has said, and he's been on Twitter and said before. People talk to him about like the challenge system, and he's like, I would rather our game was able to get all of its calls correctly before we start having fake bad calls. Like, well, there's an omission right there that the game can't get all the calls correctly. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But at least they're aware of it, and maybe by Madden 27 we'll have that fixed. We'll see.
You mean XFL 2022, right?
Right. Yeah. Man, I am excited to have the Battlehawks coming back in 2022.
I hope. I mean, they have the rights to all the teams, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
It wouldn't make sense to get rid of the Battlehawks,
No.
the number one selling team in the XFL.
Cacao.
Cacao. That's the law.
Long live the cacao.
Which I'm loving seeing some of these XFL players in Madden. I don't think that they're necessarily given the love they deserve by the Raiders, but Jordan Teamu, PJ Walker, Kenny Robinson, some of those guys. It's nice to
Only
have.
one of them has a picture, by the way.
Kenny?
No.
Oh, PJ.
Yeah, PJ.
Yeah.
Philip
Walker.
Walker.
Possibly because he's already been in the game because he was with the Colts a couple of years ago.
Teamu was actually in the game last year too. So,
Was he? Because I didn't see him.
he was there.
Was it just at the beginning, or?
Yeah, it's at the very, very, very beginning before he signed his XFL contract.
And then they took him out of the game.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Fun fashion nugget. Oh
Yeah, he's my backup now, Teamu. For Big
yeah.
Ben.
Your starter.
See, if I keep throwing interceptions, it probably will be. I'm throwing like 2 picks a game right now, which sucks. But
yeah, it does suck.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. But for the most part, I feel like it's my own fault. Like, I don't feel like the game's cheating me when I throw those picks. So that's good, mostly. Well, there was the one instance. I told you about the one instance earlier. So this is something else that's been happening on offense for me, is I'll throw a pass and it'll say it's an accurate pass, but the receiver can't make a play on it. And it's like, how is this an accurate pass if the receiver can't make a play on it? Like, that's not accurate. That's either I overthrew it or I underthrew it or whatever. And so I had a crossing route, and I saw the guy was going to be open. There was a linebacker over the middle of the field. He had just passed the linebacker. Linebacker's back was to the direction the receiver was running. So I threw a pass and tried to lead the receiver into the open field. And it said that I threw an accurate pass, but I threw it on a line right over the linebacker's head at such a trajectory that the receiver who was doing a crossing route actually had to stop and curve upfield in his route to try to adjust for where the ball was going to be. Now, it didn't matter because the linebacker got the interception, but the game said, hey, you threw an accurate pass right there. It was like, no, that was not accurate. It wasn't in line with the receiver. It wasn't a trajectory of his route. It actually made the receiver have to change his route. And the linebacker was standing right there who otherwise wouldn't have been able to make a play on the ball. And it's those types of moments that make you feel like the game is scripted.
Yeah, it's a perfect pass for a scripted play.
Right. Yeah, it was accurate because we wanted it to be an interception. Now, I'm not going to say definitively that the game scripts that kind of stuff, but if that's
But you are.
Well, but it sure makes it feel like it, right? I mean, if it happens to you, your only reasonable explanation is the game wanted me to throw an interception right here. That's the only thing that makes sense.
They can't hear me nodding my head.
Yeah. Wow, you really are a bad cop today. Yeah. So the game has its moments, and then it has its other moments.
Like what?
Well, like the stuff we just talked about, Nate. The issues. There are other times where it looks very pretty. Something works really well, and you're like, okay, that was cool. But
yeah,
it is what it is. It's Madden, and it feels like another Madden game. I get why some people think the gameplay's better than last year.
I feel that it is, but there's drawbacks to that too.
That's the thing is I don't feel like it's better. I feel like it's different.
Yeah, that's a better word for it.
And I feel like it's the same way. Like last year, I felt like Madden 20 was better gameplay than Madden 19, and that might be the case. But I'm starting to see more and more. It feels like just the gameplay each time is different, not better.
Yeah. Oh, we adjusted this,
Yeah.
so it feels different this way, or
Right.
yeah. I do feel like and you know this because Tim and I have actually already played each other once.
Yes.
That running back screenplays are kind of back again this year.
Yeah.
Tim likes those.
In the right situation.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like you could do those a little bit more successful or aggressively.
I think so.
Than before. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we've been playing franchise mode.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you this earlier. You've not played any of the other new modes.
Mm-mm.
I told you, and I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I started playing Face of the Franchise. And I told you earlier, before we started recording, that I quit and don't intend to continue it. I think I can say definitively this is the worst career mode in the history of sports games.
What? Oh, so instead of being a Spike Lee joint, it's a Michael Moore joint.
Well, yeah. I would prefer, I said this to you earlier and it got you shocked. I would rather play the NBA 2K Spike Lee joint with Freak, and where his best friend dies in a car accident after being on drugs or something. That was just so absurd. Just such an absurd story. I would rather play that than play Face of the Franchise. Face of the Franchise has next to zero redeeming qualities. There is nothing fun about it. The games you play don't matter. The decisions you make don't matter. There's only so many different outcomes or possibilities in it. You don't even really get to play your career. You only get to play moments in your career. And again, how you play doesn't change the outcome. So it's really, really silly, poorly written. It makes no sense. I was explaining to you, like they make you best friends with a guy who's consistently trying to sabotage your career. And it just...
Well, that's what best friends do, right?
Right. I do that to you all the time.
He thinks that we're best friends. How cute.
I'm going to go cry now.
We always get sidetracked. Okay.
Because Faces of the Franchise is so bad, we'd rather make jokes about our friendship than talk about it. I mean, Faces of the Franchise is terrible. Here's the one thing I liked. The only thing that I liked. When you're playing your high school games, plural, you have a high school announcer who talks about the other players on the field, and that gives you a really cool sense of immersion. They talked about like the quarterback that you're playing against on the other team. His parents both went to Nebraska. He's going to go to Nebraska. Guess what happens if you go to college, though, and play Nebraska? Guess who's not there? That guy. It talks about how your running back on your team, Florida fans are excited because he's committing to Florida. Okay, that's great. Guess what happens when you go play Florida? He's not there. Like, there is a really big missed opportunity to continue that narrative of understanding of like where your teammates are going and where your opponents are going. And like, if they could have done like a story about like a wide receiver on another team, and then he shows up because he committed to the team you committed to, and he's on that roster when you get to college, how cool would that be? That would be really immersive and really fun. And you don't have to make a story about how he's on your team because his twin brother died of cancer and now he has some type of Make-A-Wish Foundation that he sponsors, like last year's version. You can just have this connection of knowing that was a guy you played against in high school. Or what happens when you go out and you play your first game and it's against Nebraska and it's against that quarterback, and Brandon Gaudin can say, these guys faced off against each other in high school state finals. Like, that would make really cool sound bites, really cool immersion pieces. But it's not there because instead they're focused on your fool of a frenemy, basically, that you're playing with, the coach and his terrible decisions in college. And it's just god awful. It is so bad. So bad. And as we've said about this mode before, and we said about Long Shot before that, it does nothing to help you be better at Madden. It does nothing to teach you about football. It does none of those things. It's literally a, hey guys, we wrote a cool story and you should check it out by playing this game. No, your story sucks, dude. The story sucks. It's bad. It's so bad.
So what you're really trying to say is that the mode that they have where they want to have immersion isn't immersive.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have been working on this. We've talked about this. I don't know if other people are seeing this, but I think you heard it here first in previous episodes. This is what they've been working towards. This is what they've wanted franchise to be since Madden 13. They want it to be focused on you as an individual playing your career. And that's why career mode's gone. That's why it went away. And if you remember, Madden 13 rebranded franchise mode as connected career mode. It was all about you and you earning your career points to see where you rank in the Hall of Fame, right? So Long Shot was kind of the next evolution. And then people thought, Long Shot's okay, but I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be your predetermined character. I want to be my character. I want to be me. And so they tried to make that happen these last 2 years with Face of the Franchise. And it's just not working the way they want it to. But their intention is that this is franchise mode. Go look at the latest patch notes. Okay. You go down, it says Mutt, here's all your patch notes. Then it says The Yard, here's all your patch notes. And it says KO Superstars, here's your patch notes. Then it says franchise. And then it has subpoints. Face of the Franchise. Here's your Face of the Franchise updates. Classic Franchise. Here's your franchise mode updates. EA Tiburon sees Face of the Franchise as franchise mode. That has been their goal and their vision for several years now. And that is what they've been trying to make franchise mode be, is that. And that's why we don't have any updates for Madden 21. Because Face of the Franchise was supposed to be franchise mode. And the stuff they did in Face of the Franchise mode was supposed to make you think that franchise was cool again. That was their recommitment to franchise. Guess what? It sucks. It blows. It's awful. and it was a waste of resources, guys. You should have just gone in and tried to make a franchise mode that makes sense. Period. And if you want a career mode, make a career mode. Don't make a subset of franchise mode and try to pass it off as a career mode. Don't make a made-for-TV drama that you get to play 3/4 of football in and say, hey, here's your career mode. Because that's not it. It's bad.
Mic drop.
Well, I'm not going to drop my mic. It's expensive.
Yeah. So is mine.
Figurative mic drop. So don't play it. Don't play Face of the Franchise.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. But, I'm talking to you, Ryan Tannehill, our most famous and consistent listener. Don't play that mode of the game.
I'm not going to.
No.
Oh, I'm not Ryan Tannehill, but,
Yeah.
Yeah. This kind of actually goes back to I've considered it in the past 2 years before this about not even buying Madden. That's that kind of thing, and I was probably the closest this year as I ever have been. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get it digitally. Luckily, I don't have to buy multiple copies or anything like that. I finally got that to work out.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked in years past to be able to, have one copy and do it that way. It's somehow working this year. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'll just spend the $60, have it, just to, be able to make fun of Chad. Which I actually do a lot less of right now. I mean, you've kind of taken over that predominant role there.
Well, it's fun for me. It also enjoy my experience.
But I mean, to think that it's kind of left such a rough taste in my mouth, and all of the stuff in the off season and stuff like that, of fix franchise and all that, this is kind of backing that up. It's like, they gotta do something. Just show me something,
I'm right there with you, man. I think there's some misnomers here. I know Madden is still selling like hotcakes. They have an increase, but there's a lot of context that's missed when we talk about how well Madden's selling. And I think the thing too is just because people have bought and played the game doesn't mean that the majority of your players find the maximum level of enjoyment they can out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that people discount. They think, casual. I hear this a lot from hardcore Madden community guys. They're like, look, we're a small subset of the community, and the majority of Madden buyers are just casual kids buying the game and playing it that don't care about any of the things that we care about. And I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but here's where I think you're wrong. So, for one, a lot of them don't know what they don't know. And let me just, from a personal perspective, I think you can relate to this. I remember getting Joe Montana Sports Talk Football 94 and playing that on Sega Genesis, right? And you'd play that, and it was fun. And then I remember when I finally got Madden 95, it's Madden 96 might have been the first one. I think Madden 96 was the first one I owned, but I had played Madden 95. Got Madden 96, and there's a franchise mode. I remember playing the game when all you could do was a season. You could either play now, play against a friend, couch co-op, or play a season. And I had a friend in grade school and middle school and high school that we would sit there and play through an entire season, co-op together. I remember taking the Creamsicle Buccaneers and, playing through a season like that. And then when it was done, we would start over with a different team. So then when suddenly, okay, now you got franchise mode and in franchise mode, it's going to track all your stats from season to season. And you can make trades every year, and there's a trade deadline, and there's a salary cap, and you get to draft players. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is all this stuff? And it was so cool. And then they took it a step further and they said, you get to hire your staff. You get to build your own stadium. You get to relocate your team and design their uniforms. Wow, this is awesome. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't even consider how cool that would be. Like, I mean, you always knew it would be cool to be able to customize your own stuff, but you didn't really think about that. You just were excited because you loved football and you loved the NFL, and you had a chance to play an NFL football game. And you played that for a couple years, and it naturally progressed every year to a point where you had this living, breathing organism that was a replication of what happens in the NFL. Was it perfect? No. But we saw it evolve. And when did it quit? Madden 12. Okay. Go watch these YouTubers. Go watch these pro players. Look at how old they are. Look at their first Madden. A lot of them will tell you they started playing Madden 14, or I guess that was Madden, technically Madden 25, because that was the
25th anniversary.
Madden 15. They started playing after all of those things were taken out of the game. So all these casual fans, the casual fans that play Madden, come to Madden for one reason, because they're NFL fans. So they come over and they play these casual games, and that's fine. I'm glad that they enjoy that. But how many of them don't even know what used to be in the game? How many of them don't even realize what was there before? How cool would it be for them to see it evolve into something better? That for you and I, we would say it's a callback to what it was. But if they began adding that stuff, can you imagine how many of those casual fans would suddenly be addicted? How many of those casual fans would be like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I can hire coordinators now and look at how it affects my team. And, I can relocate a team to St. Louis and design their stadium and design their uniform. This is the coolest thing ever. I wish this was in the game forever ago.
But you can't.
But you can't do that. And then we ask for that and say the game's not as good as it could be. Look, the gameplay's bad, yes. But then the game's not as good as it could be with depth and franchise mode. We asked for that, and we're told, well, you guys are subset. It's like, no, I don't think you understand. I think a lot of people don't know what they're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my little soapbox on that.
The big soapbox. It's like one of those, I was going to say like generic, like big boxes of Sam's Club, like.
I love my soap.
You just a little scooper and put it in the little thing.
But
I may be quiet today, but I have the chunk of the good information here about the scooper.
I just don't think it's too much to ask that the developer who has the exclusive license to make a simulation football game does their best and makes simulation football their biggest priority.
But is it?
No,
like their vision is completely different than what it, and I think the people have kind of finally said enough is enough this year, And
that's the thing though, is have they? And that's where the argument comes in. Like yes, there was the movements on Twitter, but the trend is that the game sold more copies and people are still doing microtransactions. And yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are enjoying the yard. So the yard is the new mode. It's part of their vision going forward. It's an arcade style game that fits right there with KO Superstars and Mutt mode. And I get the appeal of it. I do. But it's not for me. I don't really care for it. And I think the overall goal of the yard is to sell microtransactions because they need you to buy in-game currency to buy swag, because you need to be the freshest looking player on the field, right?
Swag.
Right. And here's something that's bothered me about the yard too. Something that bothers me about the yard is it's inspired by backyard football. when we played backyard football, we weren't lateraling it all over the place. You did that, people kicked you off the field because they're like, that's not how football's played. This isn't rugby. Like, that's not how this works. You can't just keep passing the ball 700 times behind the line of scrimmage, even on forward passes, just because it's fun. Like, that was not backyard football when I was playing in backyards. And if you did that, you got laughed at because you didn't know how to play football. So, like, it kind of, like, every time I hear that, like, inspired by backyard football, it's like, not really. This isn't really backyard football. This is an arcade style game. It's totally fine if you like it. It's totally fine if you enjoy it. I don't have a problem with EA even putting it in the game. But priority one should be replicating football. And if you can't do that when you're the only person with the license to do it, then don't give me your arcade modes.
Yeah, I mean, like, they feel the pressure, I think, to have an arcade style mode to try to pertain to a certain crowd, because now they don't have arcade. Well, I mean, they don't have exclusivity to arcade stuff because 2K now has that, ability to do that. So I think it's them trying to get maybe a foot in the door ahead of time, that kind of thing. And I understand that from a business perspective as well, but I don't buy it for that. Like, there are some people who do that, but I mean, you have the Yard, which is arcade mode. You have KO Superstars, which was introduced last year. That's an arcade mode too. So, like, Mutt is somewhat, but it's a mixture.
It's a combination. Like, when you start Mutt, like,
it's a team building, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that you do that are on arcade.
Yeah. So I kind of get it.
Yeah. But the thing about Mutt is, whether you call it arcade or not, it's not simulation football.
Yeah. It's another mode altogether. Yeah, I mean, I could beat that tree branch. I don't know. I think I've said my piece about that so many times that it's a broken record.
Yeah.
Different visions.
Yeah, different visions.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like, the fixed franchise movement has helped them.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going to get too sidetracked here, but it kind of is interrelated here. But it's like, with this next gen of consoles coming out, which is a mess, by the way. We are due to have a revamping, potentially.
Yeah, we're due, but will they do it?
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, the last time that they quite literally revamped the game was with the PS4.
I don't know.
But I wouldn't say it revamped. They changed it, and they actually regressed some of it.
Yeah,
I would say
I don't know.
They took away more than they probably added.
I don't know that they necessarily improved on the. I don't know that they necessarily restarted the code or anything on that. I think the code goes back. The code they're building now goes back into the PS3 era.
Well, yeah, it does, but scouting is different. For instance,
yeah,
scouting's different. Those kinds of things. That big aspect, I guess, is different.
Yeah.
Than and they changed that scouting with the PS4 version.
Yes, they did.
So I guess from that perspective, that's like, there's a noticeable facelift change there on that.
Sure.
But yeah. Let's kind of transition into, hopefully, maybe some of the brighter talk. I don't know.
I don't have any bright notes. What are we talking about?
More sunshine.
Well, there ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Jeez.
She's definitely gone away.
So, like, kind of talking about, like, the future of Madden 21 here. They are communicating some things, like that they're trying to change specifically for franchise, which is good.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I think maybe covering some of that stuff is where we're kind of drifting the conversation here.
Yeah.
As far as updates and like what Tim already said is like there's an update a week.
Yeah, there is.
So and they ain't gonna stop probably. So, what do you think right now about maybe some of the updates that are mid-November ish maybe?
So they're expecting to do 3 franchise patch updates over the course of the lifespan of this game. The first one is set for mid-November. Hopefully. They're not committed to that. That's their target goal.
Yeah.
If you think about it, game comes out at the end of August. Like, you are a quarter into its life cycle before you get these updates. Now, here's one thing that I will say I think is a credit to the guys at Tiburon. One of the reasons why they say it's taking so long is it's important to them that whatever they add to franchise mode will work in existing created franchises. And I think that's huge. Like, we saw that last year early on where they added things and it was like, but you had to start your season over. And that really sucked. So kudos on that. I think we're going to see this in November. We're supposed to see 2 more after that. I think there's a lot of people in the community that feel like, it's not that much. These things don't seem like that much. But honestly, it's the best we all kind of knew going in. That's the best we were going to get for a game that was already quote unquote done. The game doesn't play like it's finished, but you know what I mean. Like, the game was done. So what they're giving us, I think, makes sense. So here's the list of stuff that's coming in November. So first one is X Factor Superstar ability customization. So once a player has met the criteria to unlock an X Factor ability, commissioners will be able to edit their player's Superstar abilities and Superstar X Factor abilities by selecting from those available within his position group. Users will have control over this functionality in both offline and online franchises. So the commissioner can go in and change X factors. I could see this and superstar abilities. I could see this being beneficial in a number of ways if you're using abilities. But I think this is one of those things that probably should have already been in the game. You would think. But there's a lot of things like this that are in the game that you can't edit. Like, do you know your player has a personality trait, whether they're laid back or that kind of thing? Like, you can't change that when you're editing a player. How silly is that? Why is it there if you can't? Like, I don't get it. Anyway, so yeah, I think this is good. And so for me, I like the possibility of being able to remove specific abilities that maybe feel OP or that maybe people don't like, right? So, what's a good one? There's some abilities out there that people don't like. One of the ones right now that like MUT guys don't like is the bench press ability. So bench press ability is if your corner puts pressure on a receiver, it destroys their stamina. Like for like the next 10 plays practically, right? That feels really
OP'd.
Yeah, like that makes no sense to me. Like that's not a really good. So if I can go in and edit out every player that has that ability, okay, that would make sense to me. So there's some things like that it gives you some tools just to be able to customize it and make it fit for your needs. And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, customization, right? Yeah. Within a franchise, especially whenever you're talking about like doing draft classes, those kinds of things, like you had to have some variability within that if you're editing draft classes and everything. That's a plus.
Yeah.
But we'll probably already have draft by then, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm hoping we'll have some 2022 classes and 2023 classes as well. But yeah. So then the next one is player card career stats UI. So basically this is when you look at your player's career stats.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't tell you who they played for. It doesn't give you a lot of context. Now it is going to. So
Yes.
they're going to have basically, this is a really small thing. It does make a difference though. Like people do like to know these things. Whether it makes sense to have
It's a detail thing.
yeah.
You know?
And it's, if anybody used to collect football cards, like that was one of those things that you always looked at, right? So it just makes sense to have it there. It's a detail. It's an immersion. Now, like, if the players played for multiple teams in one season, I wonder how it's going to handle that. I mean, like, I know in our league, you've got offensive linemen that played for one team. Chad went and got them, edited them, and then traded them off before even using them because he was so neurotic about his backups for his offensive line.
Still is neurotic about it, but
Yeah.
anyhow.
So, like, I don't know how it's going to track stuff like that. It's not going to be like, Minnesota / Indianapolis / Tampa Bay.
Slash
Yeah.
back to Indianapolis / to New York Jets.
Right. But it is a good thing. It's a positive thing. It is a small thing. And I think like the last one, it's one of those things that's like, why wasn't this already in the game?
Yeah. Makes sense to me. I mean, why wasn't it in the game? I will actually go in and look at stuff like that. I like to watch, look at statistics and everything like that and trends and yeah, all those kind of things. So I'm one of those guys that, is like, well, Devonta Freeman's only had 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons in his career, which is actually correct, by the way.
Yeah.
But
well, you know what? Knowing what team they played for will tell you what scheme they were playing on.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of useful knowledge in that. All right. Third thing, dev trait regression tuning. So the team is doing tuning work to player development traits and franchise mode to ensure a proper balance of superstar and X-Factor players when progressing multiple years in franchise. Now, I think this one's kind of important, kind of a big deal. They made a big deal about when they introduced X-Factors last year, they made a big deal about there should only be 50. We're only going to have 50 X-Factors in the game. Which, if you're playing regs, yeah, that's the way it is. But when you're playing franchise mode, players get improved dev traits. Mm-hmm. And within 10 years, you've got 100 superstars or more.
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah. Superstars and X Factors.
It got a little out of hand.
It does.
In last year's version.
It gets very out of hand, and it begins kind of tilting that, and then you see guys who were X Factors, but they're now 40 or 37 years old, and they're 70 overall, but they're still an X Factor. It's like they should,
and they don't have any of they have one superstar trait.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they should lose that development trait, but they didn't want those traits to go away. So I think if they can put that regression trait, if they can tie that to the right thing. And say, look, by the time a guy hits 33, if he's a wide receiver, he's probably going to start losing some of his development trait. Now the problem is there a player? Okay, I think a prime example is Tom Brady. So now Tom Brady probably isn't an X Factor player.
He is in the game.
In real life. Right, he's still a very good quarterback, but if you compare Tom Brady to who he was 5 years ago, is he still an X Factor player? A lot of people will, I say he's not. A lot of people will make the argument, no, he still is a difference maker in a game, right?
Yeah, he's a difference maker in a game, but he doesn't overwhelm you. He's never overwhelmed you with physical attributes.
No, well, his X Factor kind of plays with that.
Exactly.
It gives him ability to make calls and adjustments, but should he lose that because he's in his 40s?
Is,
I mean,
Yeah.
so you have to find. My point is,
Yeah.
you have to find the right balance, because I think you could make an argument. Yes, he should, or you can make the argument, no, he shouldn't, and I think both would be pretty compelling. If I'm just being objective. So the problem is, if you're going to have regression on these dev traits and X factors, it needs to make sense when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, when has EA Tiburon ever done something that makes sense?
I'm trying to think here. This is tough.
Yeah. Now, if they do something like sorry, I'm just gonna keep going. If they do something where they commit to the 50 X factors in the league,
Yeah.
okay. So what if they say the top 50 players in the league get X factor, and they don't go by ratings, but they go by production?
Well, and then you have some difficulties within that, because what if somebody's injured, or
Yeah.
I mean,
I get that.
if you're talking about always sticking with 50 players and that's it, that's the max, that's the minimum, everything like that, then you're going to have some kind of off the wall person at some point who led the league in tackles because the defense sucked, and Chad traded, for all the linebackers.
In a franchise like ours, where we only have 6 people playing, do you end up with, okay, well, this team performs so well, their quarterback, 2 of their receivers, and their running back, and 1 of their offensive linemen, and their 2 corners, because these were the top performers, right? Because they played so well. You end up stacking whoever the user teams are with those X factor players if it doesn't balance right.
Where's the balance? And I'm going to lean toward the side of there needs to be balance within a franchise mode. And that's just me, though.
So that's the difficult thing then for them, is how they're going to make that work. So
I hope they don't screw it up more. That's my worry.
Well, I think it's a fair
I'm trying
concern.
not to think that way,
well,
but
look, you can give people the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I'll be positive and assume positivity until you prove me wrong. But EA Tiburon has instead really given us a track record of, they need to show us that they can execute well. They don't execute well. We need to see that they can execute well. So we go into all of these things with a little fear and trepidation of saying, are they capable of doing this? It's a novel idea, but execution lacks with this team so often. And you can knock my can over. You can give me all sorts of reasons why they don't execute well. You can say it's because they're not given the resources. It's the direction of the producers. Yada yada yada. To your blue in the face. Those are details. The point is, as a studio, they don't execute.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
it's the overall.
Yeah. So these are some opportunities to prove they can.
I'll believe it whenever I see it.
Yeah.
I guess that.
Yeah. Good luck, guys.
I would be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I would love to be surprised and delighted. I would love that. Okay. So the last thing, we were talking about this before we started, a playoff bracket. A visual playoff bracket will be added into the game that reflects the new wildcard format, allowing users to see the full playoff picture. Okay.
They used to have this.
Yeah, this used to be there. And we were talking about this with Madden 13. We even could share it to Facebook.
Yeah.
From your PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Remember, we used to have a Twitter feed for our league? Yeah. Like a legit. It used to,
legit. Yeah.
There are so many things that this game used to have. So a playoff bracket. Okay, thanks. I think that's nice, but you and I were talking, I'm not personally going to go looking for a playoff bracket. So it needs to be front and center, for it to make any difference. And I think the best place for it is in presentation when you start a playoff game.
Yeah. Which it used to have.
Yeah. I would also love to see, if they could expand on that and do, who's going to be in the playoffs as you get closer to it.
That would be kind of a cooler thing, like the X's and the Y's, that kind of thing, how they have that in playoff seeding, I guess.
Yeah. So So like, yeah, I think presentation would be a good place for this. I think presentation is something. Okay, presentation is awful in Madden 21. It's really bad, right?
Oh yeah,
The stadium announcer
man,
and all of
just
that.
so dry.
It's so bad, and I think I have to believe that this was impacted by COVID.
Yeah.
I think they maybe would have loved to have had Jonathan Coachman do more stuff. On the other hand, Brandon Gaudin was recording lines from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe he has a setup that permits him to do that and other people don't.
It doesn't take a whole lot.
No, it really doesn't.
Doesn't.
No. So it was definitely doable to have better presentation, but they didn't do it. And if it hit the cutting floor because COVID and they needed to not focus on something, I totally understand. As bad as it is, presentation is one of those things that I don't notice until it's bad. I don't notice presentation until it's bad. Or I don't notice it until they make it so that you can't skip it. Because I'm trying to play my game. I want to get through my game quickly. Because these games can take up to an hour sometimes depending on how you play, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got 2 kids and a job, and like I got things to do. So I'm trying to get through my game as quickly as I can, and I want to play the entire game. I don't want to play the moments. So I don't need a huge presentation thing. I just need it to not be awful.
Yeah. And it's awful this year. Like the announcing. It's just the announcing for me. Like I can't. Oh, I just can't. Sorry. Yeah, I'd skip it really as quickly as I can, but you can't skip it right away either. And it's
if you don't time it right, you end up picking your next play by accident.
Oh man.
So those are the 4.
It's happened to me.
Yeah, those are the 4 things that they're adding for franchise mode. And like the substantial stuff, we already know
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen until next year at the earliest. It's not going to be until Madden 22 at the earliest.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky. They did not commit to it being in the game. They said they would work towards getting it in the game. And who knows? They might finish this year and say, you know what? We had a 20% increase in sales without doing anything to franchise mode. We still made $1 billion off of MUT packs and an extra billion off of the yard. We're not going to do anything with it because we don't need it to make money. Man, who knows? They might do that.
Yeah. Bastards. Oh, sorry.
Bastard covered bastards.
That's my Tourette's going through. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you just, I don't know. I cringe thinking about it. Like so far this year has been a little bit, going back to, I guess, the beginning portion, trying to wrap this all together. Is this year? I don't know. I've had a different outlook on it, I guess.
Sure.
I've tried to be a little bit more positive with it and positive with my communication with the league and everything like that, because the last 2 years have been just kind of like, what the heck am I doing? That kind of thing. I've had some of those moments and I'm like, that's probably taken away the joy from somebody else and so, some of their enthusiasm and everything like that. And I know that they're probably having their own struggles with it. So,
sure.
So I just said, I'm just going to kind of do my thing this year. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. Just going to try to have fun with it.
Yeah. And so far we are, I think. As a league, we're having a good time. People are complaining about the game.
Yeah. The offensive line injuries is a thing that, I mean.
There are all sorts of little issues that we're all running into with the game. And we're all at a point where the game's not deep enough for us to overlook the issues.
Yeah, I mean, there's still issues, and they come up in the chat that we have, our text messaging chat that we have. It'll drop the bomb harshly at sometimes, like that kind of thing. It is what it is. It's a cycle. We're trying to struggle through it, and hopefully our friendships and companionships that we do have, I think they're overcoming it, which is great.
Yeah.
Well,
we're all complaining about it, yet we're all trying to help each other get a PS5 so that we can keep the league going on the next generation.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Right. I think it's, again, the greatest thing about Madden is not the game, it's the friendships that we have around it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, it's unfortunate that we're all connected so much of our time to this imperfect game, but
yeah, I'm in it for the money.
we should all just get WoW and play WoW instead.
You're dead to me.
I don't want to play WoW. I'm just kidding.
No, it's but it's kind of fun. Just kind of seeing the evolution that everybody picking their teams this year was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
We
had a few surprises.
A couple of surprises. The Packers were a bit of a surprise to Jason.
I was surprised that Jason took the Packers, and then it looked like he really wanted them to use Jordan Love. And that was just the worst thing to me, because I hate. I like Jordan Love. I don't have a problem with Jordan Love. I hate how overrated he is. And I hate that they were the Packers came out and said, Jordan Love is going to be a healthy scratch as our third string quarterback. And Madden's response was, well, then let's give him a star development trait. It's why? What did he do?
Yeah. But the ratings guys will say, hey, we don't have anything to do with that.
No, but they have something to do with that. I've seen Andre comment on different, the reasons why some players get him and other players don't. And if there's, he's in a room somewhere championing that.
Yeah. I mean, that you're going to do that.
Yeah.
It's just like in real football, a scout is championing a guy to be picked in a certain round or whatnot, and that.
For some reason, he thinks that Jordan Love is as accurate, if not more accurate, of a quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. And I disagree, because I know better. And I listen to actual scouts and not guys like him and who have parked cars for a living. But I digress. I think but that was back to the point at hand. That was a big surprise when he did that. And I was going to go in and manually edit Jordan Love. I was going to remove the star dev trait, and I was going to lower him from a 71 to probably a 68. I felt like that was would be an acceptable rating for him. The idea that he's rated higher than Herbert or as accurate as Tua just makes no sense. So as soon as Jason said, I'm going to be the Packers, I knew I couldn't do it. And the first thing he did was he traded Aaron Rodgers to the Titans.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is still good in the game.
Yep. He plays pretty well. He's got some good receivers there in Tennessee, so.
Whatever. Yeah, how much money do they have tied up in the quarterback position now between him and Tannehill in our league?
More than they would have accepted in real life, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. But yeah, he clearly went young with that team. He traded off their running back as well, Jones, and is using A.J. Dillon. He was until he got an 8-week spinal injury, but yeah. So he took the Packers, and then you took Denver.
Yeah. So I actually, for the second year in a row, I had the first pick on our randomization. I was like, oh well, crap, and I kept on going back and forth, but I was like, I'm gonna hate myself if I never pick Drew Lock's team.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, because I went with Kyler Murray's team last year. I thought, last year's having that mobile quarterback was really nice, but this year, it's nice, but it's not quite as neat because the pass rush isn't near what it was last year, that kind of thing. Not. So, I went with Denver Broncos and Drew Lock. got my Mizzou West going, I guess.
Well, I love that you got Demarie Crockett and are using him and getting him.
Yeah, he's my starter right now.
Yeah.
The guy with no face in the game.
That was the guy that we kept asking. That we asked them to put in the game last year because he was in the preseason, played for the Texans in the preseason, but they never added him to the roster. So I was really glad to see he was on the roster this year.
Yeah, it's good to, to have that, and I got some of the other Mizzou guys. My defensive tackle, I have 3 Mizzou guys, but just kind of develop and have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Good thing.
Chad took the Colts. That wasn't too. He's been the Colts before. He's got like a really tight knit group of teams that he likes and doesn't like.
Yeah.
So,
I've kind of noticed he doesn't like the Rams, obviously.
But he used to love the Rams, obviously.
He'd throw a fit if he didn't have the Rams.
Yeah. And then they left. So I don't think it matters what team he takes, though, because he's literally going to trade every player off and trade back for them and then trade them again. So, like, it didn't really matter that he got the Colts because he got rid of all of their marquee players for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting Jacob Eason.
That was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm not looking for an aging quarterback to be I wouldn't want to start Phillip Rivers either. But,
no, but
the fact that he skipped over Brissett, went straight to Easton Stick.
Not Easton Stick.
I'm sorry.
Eason.
Jacob Eason. Yeah.
Sorry.
My mistake. The fact that he went to Eason was just kind of surprising, but also, I think a testament to him kind of developing the way he's really trying to have a young team.
Yeah.
And develop them, and that's good for him. Except he created several transactions that were illegal in our franchise. We have a rule that if you trade for a rookie player, you have to provide a draft pick equal to the round in which they were drafted. Because in real life, these guys that are getting drafted aren't going to get traded. Minus Lynn Bowden, but it's a weird year, so. And he made the mistake of not doing that a couple times because he wasn't paying close enough attention.
Which is kind of funny because last year we had the restriction that you could only do that with 2 players per year, and we didn't necessarily go back over the rules this year or whatnot. So maybe that's something that we have to kind of.
We'll probably have to look forward for season 2.
Look forward for the future at some point, but and so we've had to kind of say, hey, dude, you've traded for so-and-so and they were such and such around and that kind of thing. And
now he didn't make the mistake, though, that you could not trade for a rookie player if they were a hidden development.
Yeah, he has not done that, because I reminded that kind of thing. And even Jake had said, oh, yeah, you can't do that, that kind of thing because they're hidden, that kind of thing. So,
So I'm interested to see what he does with this team, and then Jake had the last pick again,
like 4 years in a row.
Yes,
poor Jake.
Running joke, and he took who did he take? What team is he? I can't remember now. It's an NFC team.
Well, he originally was like Cardinals, but
Saints.
Then he went to the Saints.
Yeah.
And he's doing pretty good with the loaded roster there, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I played him in the preseason. And that was fun. I took Pittsburgh.
After much texting with me.
Yeah, I texted you. I also texted a little bit with Jason because he was picking after me. And me and him were all in the NFC last year. Mm-hmm. And you had picked an AFC team, and I was looking at an AFC team. And I was like, Jason, are you looking AFC or NFC? He's like, NFC. I was like, okay, I'm going to take AFC then. Mm-hmm. And I went with Pittsburgh. And I like that situation there. Like, Roethlisberger's on 2 years left on his contract. I'm going to be trying to find my replacement quarterback this season. If not this season, the next season. But try to give myself that chance to move into it. So that's a fun team that's got skill, but also has elements that need to be rebuilt. So I'm looking forward to rebuilding them over the next couple seasons. And then Sarita took the football team. out of Washington, which was funny. She mentioned earlier today the uniforms.
Yeah.
She only has the 2 uniforms because all the old uniforms have, racist marketing on them. So it's one of those things where she kind of stuck with those 2 jerseys, but
yeah, it kind of an interesting choice. Lots of holes, but she felt like she could make it her own, that kind of thing. Yeah, that defensive line is really good though.
yeah, she's
young and good. So.
And she's winning. She's undefeated right now. So
yeah.
I know I have to play her. I played you. You beat me in that game. I've got to play her, and I got to play Chad this season. So
just beat Chad.
I will if I can. As long as he doesn't. You and I have made a pact to keep him out of the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
we'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. We're AFC, and
represent.
No, I mean it'll be interesting. Sometimes it can kind of get a little old playing the same people, and I think we had a little bit of fatigue with that last year.
Absolutely.
So we tried to make sure, I was like, well, if I go this route, what is Jason going to do? What is Tim going to do? And we had some conversations because I was pretty much down to either Carolina or Denver, and Tim was a little surprised that I went with Denver, but I was like, I'd hate myself if
you had said multiple times you didn't want to mess it up, and that you didn't like their uniforms or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not as big. I'm okay with their yellow uniforms, and I actually like their color rush ones more, but just okay. So the socks, the half and half thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I could see that. That is kind of gross.
Just pick one color and go with it. So this is a thing that my wife teases me about and everything like that because Tim and I we go with the no-show socks.
Yeah. Hashtag team tuck.
Yeah.
Tuck those socks.
Because we like those solid one color socks, and Denver doesn't really have those on, they have one uniform, which is the Color Rush one, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I've kind of figured things out to kind of be okay with my socks. It's a weird thing, but
Yeah.
But I also was like, they have Jerry Jeudy, and they have I'm set at tight end, I'm set at wide receiver right off the bat.
Heck yeah.
They're aged on defense. I knew that, but that's going to allow me to kind of just do my own pieces. I didn't necessarily like the right side of their offensive line, Glasgow and James, so I packaged them off because I didn't like their contracts. So
sure.
That way I could actually re-sign Drew Lock,
And that'll be good.
That kind of thing. So
yeah, and then we put up our custom draft class.
Tim labored, and hopefully Chad's going to be happy.
Yeah, I think I never know if he's going to be happy or not. But I thought you and I both, so when I asked you to look it over and the text you sent me back, I was like, okay, I feel good about this then. Because what we try to do is put together a draft class that mirrors what legitimate scouts are saying.
At least to the best ability. You're always going to have risers. Joe Burrow is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, people had him rated like third round tops, but he was more likely a 5 to 7 round person, and he went first overall, and has actually done pretty well in the league other than getting hit all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to have those outliers, but they're outliers.
Right. And we're only 2 or 3 games into the college season right now. So what we're looking at is what people are saying right now. And then as things change, we update it.
Yeah.
To kind of match whatever those trends are going to be.
So if KJ Costello keeps on putting up the numbers, and then they're like, well, he actually has good fundamentals doing this that translate well into this, even though it's an air raid and blah, blah, blah. Well, you may see actually in Tim's draft here, like KJ Costello may change throughout the year, that kind of thing.
Right. Kyle Pitts might take over Firemouth when we start seeing him play more. You could see Kyle Trask become the numero 40. I don't know what the Spanish is.
Cuatro.
For numero cuatro. I never took Spanish. Quarterback, he could really distinguish himself as that guy and maybe be a riser as well. So yeah, there's a lot that could happen there. Just about anybody could break out to be the pass rush guy.
Yeah, there's really just one that I really think of, the kid out of Miami. Rousseau is kind of the, like, it's not really like, and a lot of the scouts or the analysts or whatever, they're going to say, hey, pass rush is not a premium this year in this year's draft, and there's a couple guys, and that's and then there's, well, maybe take a flyer on this or that, or that kind of thing. But it's defensive line's a little bit harder this year.
Yeah. But I think you'll see in this draft class, the wide receiver class is deep, the corner class is deep, the safety class is deep. You do see some very talented players at quarterback and offensive line, but you do see a big drop off on those as well to those next players.
Because
that's how it looks right now.
That's how it looks like right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun doing all that, and we'll keep building that, and eventually we'll try to tailor in some 2022 classes. And I see a guy on Operation Sports doing 23 and 24 classes as well. So we might incorporate those into our league.
I have to get my scouting chops off a little bit here and figure out 2022.
Yeah.
I got some ideas, but I just don't know where all of them stand.
Sure.
That the scouts and analysts are actually saying.
Exactly. And the big issue from 21 to 22 will be making sure that the right players are in the right classes, because it's still really up in the air who's going to come back, who's not. Like right now we have Trey Lance going, and we have Justin Ross going in the 2021 draft. It's possible those guys could come back to school.
I don't think the Trey Lance does.
Well, if you if you're considered a first-round quarterback, why would you?
Yeah.
Don't ruin that draft stock. You're going to get the biggest payday of your life right now.
Yeah.
And then, Ross is one of those guys that because of the surgery and stuff, maybe he wants to go back and prove he's got it. But you know what? If he's still being projected by the second round, why do that to yourself? Why risk not getting anything? Go into the draft. It would make sense, right? So,
especially since you don't know what's going to happen at quarterback, because there's no reason Trevor Lawrence should stay.
Exactly.
And now a lot of people would have said that with Peyton Manning too, and he stayed and whatnot. But I just don't get it. And I think because of Trevor Lawrence's position, I think a Justin Ross or whatnot has more to lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the unknown quarterback situation.
Yeah, I hear that. So yeah. Wow. I think that's everything. I've still got notes for days, but we have to record more episodes at some point.
Oh, maybe.
I do.
Sort of.
I have some notes on ratings. I'm not going to get into them right now because we'll go on for another hour if we do that. But I have some things I want to talk about, so we'll shoot that for next episode, and we'll go with that. But I think that wraps us.
Yeah. I think that's good. Hopefully you guys are seeing maybe some of the same things or whatnot. We're all about kind of seeing what's out there. Hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Tim's more active than I am because he's more handsome.
That's true. So
he's more talkative than I am too. But
that's true as well. At the Nanoblitz, by the way. Yeah. You can also go to thenanoblitz.com And there are some pictures there so you can see just how handsome we really are.
And how handsome Tim is.
Right. Again, I am very handsome. And then YouTube, we've got some stuff on YouTube. It's very little, though.
That's all Tim.
Yeah,
He's better at that than I am.
We don't do it much because, you know what, we're not YouTubers. We're doing a podcast that records once every 2 to 3 months, and we're fine with that.
I have more of a radio voice. You get it? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyhow. Goes back to the looks thing, you know.
Right.
I'm not Tom Cruise. I don't like Tom Cruise.
It's probably for the best. Hey, was there something you wanted to say to Chad?
Oh. Well, he's actually been saying good morning to us, even though we're not recording in the morning.
Yeah, who says good morning at 11:30? What is up with that? It's like, but I've been up for 5 hours. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Chad's perpetual still with. He doesn't say play your game quite as much, but he says good morning.
Yeah. And we all know what he means.
Or hey guys, or hey. But Chad, once Tim plays this game, play your game.
Please do, because we're all on bye week and we'll be waiting for you to play.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on bye week. And so is my wife, and so is Tim.
And with that, bye week to all of you.
Bye.